Good evening. Would you please stand with me for the invocation and pledge allegiance? So tonight it's going to be just a little different than what we typically do in normal business, but one thing I would like for you all to do this evening is, if you would, keep Commissioner Blair Crouch in your prayers. Blair's going to have some serious surgery done very shortly, and so we wish him a fast recovery and have him back on the job as quickly as possible. So earlier this week I was reading in my devotional book a passage by John Wesley, and I'd like to share that with you this evening. And the words from John Wesley say, "Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can." So I would ask you that you would bless us this evening and keep us on task and get the business of the city done. Please watch over us always, our first responders, and please be with all of us and help us to make a better world for each and every one of us to live in. Amen. Mr. Skogstad, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Why don't you get us all a copy of that,
I can do that, Tom. Absolutely.
please?
I will. I'll do it. So I'd like to call to order this regular council of Vienna City Council for August the 25th, 2022. Let the record reflect that all members of council are present this evening, and having a quorum, we will proceed. The first item on our agenda this evening is our public forum, and we've outlawed all speeches about swimming, so I guess, I'm sorry, Henry, are you here to talk tonight? Okay, please help yourself.
Somebody only wanted 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Henry Sasson, 1307 Greenmont Hills Drive in Vienna. And yeah, it's me again. But you haven't seen in the paper or in the news, I've been in the headlines recently, and it's for a cause. And I've spent a lot of time talking to different people and different groups. And on Tuesday afternoon, it was with the Wood County Economic Development Board. And on Tuesday night, it was with the Wood County Board of Education. And starting with the Wood County Board of Education, I told them from what they had, they're the tail that wags the dog. Why? Because with Wood County, with the area and the population that's dwindling in West Virginia, Wood County and the surrounding community, they have what's left to work with. And as a result, you have the school issues with less funds and all that type of stuff. And on the front end, when I was talking to the Economic Development Board, they got the job of trying to attract business to come in here. And when I was talking with them, it wasn't so much about we need another boutique or another restaurant. The blood of any place is manufacturing. We lost, up in Washington County, you had the old Borg Warner facilities, Sabic, GE, or whatever it was. And working where I work and talking to a bunch of people in the surrounding community, it's difficult to attract people to want to live here. Whether it's in Marietta, Williamstown, Parkersburg, Vienna. That's how you grow. You bring a family in of 2 or 3, ends up 5 or 6. And what can we as a community do? So one of the things that I've been talking and working and pitching to Blair Couch and commissioners was putting in a regional aquatic center / sports center, which my thunder was blown out of Charleston yesterday, so I wish those guys well with what they're doing down there with the mall that's disappearing. But when you look at it, I'm thinking there's got to be a different way and a different approach to this. So I took a little bit different approach. I have talked with Mike Azinger today. I spoke with him on the phone for about a half hour. I've talked with Roger Conley. But then I also reached out and spoke with the Attorney General's office in Charleston. And the attorneys returned my call, and we spoke for a while. And there's an angle that we as a community can pursue with the opioid money. Because I tell them we spend a lot of money with beds for rehab, and Wood County doesn't want to be known as the rehab capital of West Virginia. Can that money be used to support our youth, to keep them busy on the front end so we don't have to pay the money on the back end? And they said, yes, the way it's set up is there'll be funds for prevention. So that's a plus. Now going through, when you look at that, they're in the process of setting things up. They said it's going to take about 4 to 5 months to get things set up in Charleston. With the funds that are going to be there, she said that 24.5% is going to go to the county and the city, 3% is going to the state, and 72.5% is going to the Opioid Foundation in West Virginia, where they will evaluate projects or programs on their merit, including stuff for prevention. They said, you're the first one that looked at this angle. I said, thank you. I hope I'm the last one that looks at this angle, because I would like to get that up here. So that's one way of looking at that, and I've let Lindsay know down at the Economic Development Board, and also Harry Silvas, who's the Senior VP out of West Banco. I also talked with Senator Joe Manchin's office, and I told them, you know, we're not Kanawha County, we're not Charleston, but if we collectively put our efforts together, and we being Vienna, Parkersburg, Wood County, Williamstown, Marietta, Belpre, we could be a hell of a powerhouse. We also need to remember that this is an initiative for the region, not for a county or a city or, you know, or a state. This also, I said, needs to put aside the differences that WVU Medicine may have or Marietta Memorial Hospital may have. This is for the better of the good of the community. So it's not us against you, this is a we effort. So when I was talking to Senator Manchin's office, they're going to send me some information, and I also said that I would like the next time that Senator Manchin came through was to meet with all the local officials of what we can do to pull this together as one group. Because one isn't going to do it, two isn't going to do it, but if we all work towards a common goal, we can pull this thing off. The other thing that we can do is towards helping fund this, there are some monies and grants that they informed me of, and they're going to send me the information as well, is if we collectively use our ARPA money, Parkersburg, Wood County, Vienna, Williamstown, Belpre, Marietta, towards an effort like that. Looking at the numbers, the Wood County Economic Development Board will finish a feasibility study to put something in by the end of September. So come October, we'll know what something's going to cost. Blair and everybody asked me, well, what's going to be in it or how much is the facility? I says, that all depends on what our vision of our leaders in the community are. This isn't my vision. This has got to be our vision. The Board of Education, everybody's got to be involved. And we all got to line up behind it. So there are different ways of slicing this, you know, pizza in different ways to get the funds and stuff that's required. I look at everybody to consider any and every option that's out there. I've asked, you know, individuals in the community to reach out to their senators, their councilmen, their mayors, get out there. Some people are afraid to talk. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. You guys already know that. So that's my 2 cents for tonight. We can do this if we all get together. One other thing is with Williamstown, they used to have a hell of a summer league swim. They had over 60 kids. It disappeared. Why? Lack of interest from a coaching and with the remodeling of the pool. Greenmont, we lost our kids. We had about 40. Some went to different places to swim, but we lost that too because of the death in the owner's family, and then they didn't fix the pool. There are kids from Warren that are driving to the Boys and Girls Club to use the pool. I spoke with Rick Johnson at Salem College a couple weeks ago. He called me on a Saturday. I asked him what he was doing. He says, I'm in Kingston, Tennessee, holding the meet. Why are you in Kingston? I couldn't hold a meet here in Salem. WVU wouldn't let me because I'm not a Big 12 school, so I'm over here. He's got a lot of contacts, and this facility would support as well South Central Ohio, and there's a lot of needs for that. And he's willing to join into this fight as well. So I asked you to get with the counterparts for your other cities in a local area. Let's see what we can do. I thank you for this time.
The minutes from the August 11th, 2022 council meeting have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No objections, and the minutes will stand approved as posted. The treasurer's report will be given at the first meeting in September. And with that, we go into new business this evening. The first item on our agenda this evening is a resolution appointing Amy Walsh to a full 5-year term with the Vienna Public Library Board. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that as per Vienna Municipal Code 135.03, Amy Walsh, a duly certified resident of the City of Vienna, is hereby appointed to a full 5-year term to serve as a member of the Vienna Public Library Board of Trustees, also referred to by ordinance as the Vienna Public Library Board of Directors, to begin retroactively July 1st, 2022, and until such term expires on June 30th, 2027, and until a successor is named and appointed and qualified. This is a position to be served without compensation. Mrs. Walsh currently serves on the board. She is a teacher at Neal Elementary School. Yes, Neal Elementary School. And I would entertain a motion for the reappointment of Amy Walsh to the Vienna Public Library Board of Directors.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Amy Walsh to the Vienna Public Library Board of Directors. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Kathy, as another Board of Directors member, thank you very much. Yes, she is. She cares. Second item on our agenda this evening is the Coal Severance Fund Budget Revision Number 1. Councilman Leach.
22-23 coal severance fund budget revision number 1. Current budget unencumbered fund balance $2,000. Net increase $95,311. Revised budget $97,311. The department that this is being attributed to is 57058 under streets, capital outlay other. This is carryover for monies to use on street projects, 80,000 of which will be designated for the Spencer's Landing fill project. Current budget, streets unencumbered is $26,600. Increased $95,311 for a total of $121,911. And again, that coal severance budget revision number 1.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of Coal Severance Fund Budget Revision Number 1.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve Coal Severance Fund Budget Revision Number 1. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of Coal Severance Fund Budget Revision Number 1, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Item number 3. This is a resolution to accept the Distributors West Virginia Subdivisions Settlement Agreement. This is one of the opioid settlements that we are part of. This is a settlement with the McKesson Corporation, Cardinal Health, and Amerisource Bergen. Our portion of this will work out to $90,000 per year for the next 12 years The first payment to be made 60 days after the settlement is signed off on. And so if it should be here the last quarter of this year. If it is not, then we will receive 2 payments in 2023. Russell, any comments on that? Okay, good. Then it's a resolution to accept the Distributors West Virginia Subdivision Settlement Agreement. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby accepts the attached Distributors West Virginia Subdivision Settlement Agreement, as well as the Exhibit G Subdivision Settlement Participation Form as provided by the law offices of Hill, Peterson, Carper, B., and Ditzler, PLLC, and authorizes the mayor or his designee to execute any and all documents necessary to adopt and implement this agreement. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of this resolution.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution accepting the settlement, the Distributors West Virginia Subdivision Settlement Agreement. Is there any further discussion?
I just have a comment on it. So you might have seen in the paper a few weeks ago, Paul Farrell in Huntington went to, was in litigation on this opioid issue, which is, wide-ranging. The amount of money that's coming from this and all the ways this impacts our community is just impossible to measure. But the pharmaceutical companies filed a motion for summary judgment that was pending for almost a year. And then I think about 180-page opinion, the federal judge granted the motion to the opioid companies and basically dismissed the case. Now, I didn't read the 180-page opinion, but anytime you're in a circumstance like this, litigation or even getting to a jury, for example, which they did not, there's always a significant amount of risk. So, hearing the outcome of this negotiation on behalf of the city of Vienna, I'm encouraged. That's, what Henry said about what it takes to bring people and keep people in our community includes having a safe, as drug-free as possible community as you can, and that means giving alternatives to our kids. I've talked before about, my oldest daughter's getting ready to move back to Parkersburg. How happy can I be, and bring her family. And all my grandchildren will be in Wood County. That's not too many people can say that. And so I'm in support of this. I'm thankful that Harry's firm, we're aggressive in pursuing this kind of an outcome. And the fact that this is going to span over a number of years so it can have a cumulative effect, I think is also a positive way to structure it. So that's my comment.
All right. I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution to accept the Distributors West Virginia Subdivision Settlement Agreement, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And thank you to Mr. Dietzler and his firm, as Jim said. Harry lives right here, and so I think we got a little home cooking with him, so that was good. The next item on our agenda is a resolution allocating $160,000 in American Rescue Plan funds allocated to the city of Vienna for fiscal year 2021-2022 to the Vienna Utility Board for infrastructure projects. There's a couple things I would like to do this evening before we actually read the resolution. This is for the 28th Street Stormwater Project, which we've been working on for several months. And Mike Davis is here with us this evening, and so is Craig Richards. They've done an extensive study and broken this project down into phases so that we can work on the improvement of that center section of town clear to Pond Run. This first phase of this project is the actual design to tell exactly what improvements have to be made to increase the flow to Pond Run, working back from Pond Run, because you have to increase the outfall before you can increase the water to it. And so the other day at the utility board passed a motion and asked for this to be presented to council for consideration for the allocation of funds. At that meeting, I gave a reconciliation of the money that we have in the American Rescue Plan funds. And so I would like to quickly give you this so that you'll understand where the money has went, what we actually received, and how much money is left. In 2021, we received $1,318,671, and in 2022, we received the same amount for a total of $2,637,342. Of that money, $325,000 has been allocated to the River Road Water Project. $380,000 has been allocated to the River Road Project, and $334,690 was allocated for the purchase of the new sewer system pumps. Those three items total $1,039,690. We have $1,597,652 remaining in the fund. Out of the money that we have paid the Allen Stone Company their first draw for the River Road project in the amount of $208,655. The bid for the River Road project was $890,110. When you combine the $325,000, the $380,000 that have been allocated out of the ARP funds, and in addition to the $125,000 that the Wood County Commission added to our project, that funds $830,000 of that $890,000 project. So we still have $60,110 left, which will come out of the water funds from the utility board. So that's a reconciliation of the money that we have and where we've allocated or assigned parts of it. Mike or Craig, whichever you care to do, if you would give us a quick overview of the phase that we're considering going into now.
Thank you, Mayor. What we're looking at, Mayor kind of gave a brief description of what we're doing. We're going to go ahead and do all the design basically for the whole system, which again is from Pond Run there in front of Jackson Middle School, and will extend up 15th Avenue. And once it gets to 30th Street, when we'll start going east and west from basically 19th Avenue all the way down to 13th Avenue. So that will be the full design. And with that, we'll be looking at easements or anything that we'll need to do going forward to be able to get the project, all phases to work. But the first phase is going to be from the discharge at Pond Run up 15th Avenue to the intersection of 30th Street. So though we'll design the whole thing, the only thing that's being constructed is that phase.
Okay. All right. So it will be a lengthy project, but it's something that we just absolutely have to do. We have such severe issues with the stormwater coming down that we've all had people call us, the neighbors, and explain their frustrations. So I'll once we get to this vote, well, let's just do it now. Does anyone have a question for Mike before I have him sit down? Okay. All right, Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna that it hereby assigns $160,000 of American Rescue Plan funds received by or allocated to the City of Vienna for fiscal year 2021-2022 by the federal government under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to the Vienna Utility Board. The allocation of said funds to the Vienna Utility Board is for the purpose of planning, purchasing, and/or leasing equipment, hiring personnel if necessary, and funding a necessary water infrastructure project, specifically the 28th Street storm drainage improvements, including the preliminary design of phases 1 through 3 and the final design and bidding of phase 1 as referenced or set out in the 28th Street storm drainage improvement technical memorandum undertaken by the Vienna Utility Board and as is contemplated by the American Rescue Plan. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution allocating $160,000 in American Rescue Plan funds to the Vienna Utility Board for the 28th Street Stormwater Project.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve, that we allocate $160,000 to the Vienna Utility Board. Is there any further discussion?
I would just like to say I'm very excited about this. I think that will make as soon as the first phase starts, it's going to make a major difference in that area. So I appreciate all the hard work Craig and Burgess and Nyepel have done.
All right, anything else?
No, but I just want, we just saw in the news what happened in Kentucky, happened in West Virginia 5 years ago. We've known for years that Vienna has significant stormwater drain issues, keeping pond run, and also I've learned since I've been on council, it doesn't matter how many pipes you have, if you don't have the capacity to get rid of it, it's staying. And so I think this is a cautionary tale for the city. We do have these stormwater issues in Vienna that need addressed. And so kudos to the utility board and Burgess and Nyepel for, recognizing this need, because it's not just, my feet are getting wet. I mean, it's a big deal. So thank you.
Okay. All right, and I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution allocating $160,000 to the Vienna Utility Board for the 28th Street Stormwater Project, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, so we move on to item number 5 this evening, which is the discussion on the Spencer's Landing and 12th Street concept designs. Chris, you've kind of taken the lead on the designs. Which one do you want to start with, 12th Street or Spencer's Landing?
I think it'd be probably beneficial to start with the 12th Street, since that's kind of where we're contemplating the kayak launch going.
Okay. So we're just going to give you kind of a broad stroke tonight. This week, we did take ownership of the 12th Street property back. And so we do have a lot of room down there that we can do things with. And the kayak launch is moving forward. Craig's guys have cleaned the bank and all of the bottom. We went on a ride this week to go out in the river and take some soundings to see how deep the water is at the proposed kayak site.
Did they use you for the anchor?
Well, it's funny that you would mention that, Jim, because the depth finder on the boat didn't work, and so we had to stick Craig in the water. So the water up close is about up to his knees, and the farther out you go, the deeper it gets. It's a little mucky, but it did work.
Way to delegate.
Well, he had his flotation vest on, okay? But anyway, we did take a ride down, and we took some pictures and some readings down there. The actual site for the kayak launch and everything appears like the water's going to be just fine. It's a little shallow when you get up closer, but the docks will float. It'll be easy for you to maintain control of your kayaks. There's a couple things that, we talked about the drawings that you did. And so there's a couple things on there that, as far as the kayak launch itself goes, we pretty much have to stay on that part of the project. We're going to have to submit the drawings and the engineering stuff to the state of West Virginia for them to approve. And so in the drawings that Chris presented, there were some soccer fields, there were some other things that were there, and we can't do that right now. We have to stay within our boundaries on this grant, and hopefully, they did tell us that the money's ready to be allocated. We just need to get moving with the drawings and the layout of it. And so, Chris, I know that you've spoken with some representatives of the kayak equipment, or the docking equipment. So if you'd give us an update on that.
Yeah, I've had a few conversations with a company called Easy Docks, and I've had some correspondence with them on some of the kayak dock design, and they have a lot of variations on that we can look at. So I'm hoping to kind of look at that a little bit closer and see, about how much something like that might cost, so we can anticipate that before we actually put it out for bid. And I mean, they have some pretty great designs. Some of the things I was talking with them about was not only the ADA dock access with a specific built ramp for people with disabilities to be able to get into kayaks, but also some additional docking space for smaller motorized boats or other people with kayaks who just want to put in and take off from there. So I think that there's definitely a lot of great opportunity down here, and I know that I'm looking forward to kind of working on that. I think, the next steps that I kind of envision are me working with Craig and his guys to really come up with some good drawings for a parking lot and how we can actually kind of accessibly get down to the river there. So.
Well, before council this evening, I walked down it. It's such a gentle slope that you literally can, I walked right down to the river. I'm assuming it was the PHS kids, but they were out there in their cruise shells, rowing up and down the river. There's a couple things that in your design that we need to make sure that we get with Craig on, because the dock can't be more than 38 feet long. And so there's some issues with, the spacing and what have you that we need to be.
The dock itself.
Yes. Yeah, because if you go longer than that, there's some issues with the permit and what have you. So, but Craig is working on that. And so we're in good shape there. And the slope, obviously the kayak people that Chris and I both have talked to, they're very familiar. They've done a lot of these things. And so the biggest issue is the anchoring of the pillars. Is that the anchor points, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that once we attach it to it, that it is stable and that we can maintain it. And so we may at some point have to get an engineering firm in to do the calculations on how much draw there'll be, how much concrete we have to pour in for the pillars and what have you. But you have to anchor that thing to something. The current right there is pretty gentle, Jim. That's kind of just down the road from you just a little bit.
Yeah, you're talking about using pilings and a permanent installation of the dock versus removing it seasonally?
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay. So it'd be more like a mooring pillars
Yes.
for it than pilings that would rise like the marinas at Marietta.
But then you need some lighting. There has to be a ramp. There's got to be some accommodations made. But I know from conversations with Chris, that's not a big deal. They've done it and they can give us the footprint to do it. But we'll probably have to hire someone to do some calculations as to what we need to do for the anchoring pillars. I've seen the ones in Morgantown, and they, extend out, 30 feet or something like that. And, they're like steel rods, steel plates that they make a design out of for strength and, whatever. But anyway, it's okay.
Yeah, so, I would love to keep moving, especially on that portion of the project, since we know that we already kind of have the funding for that. And as far as kind of the rest of that 12th Street property goes, I've had a few people reach out to me, which is awesome. I appreciate people kind of letting me know their thoughts on things. I do want to be clear, the concepts that I proposed are just that. They're concepts. They kind of get the big idea and the big picture there. I've had a few people reach out about the soccer fields and are there different ways to lay them out? And absolutely, I want to make sure that we utilize that space to its fullest potential. So talking with the, people in our Parks and Rec department and with Vienna Rec and making sure that we, fully utilize that space how it's needed. I was just intending to show that there is ample space down there to use for soccer fields, which I think is a big need in the community. And so hopefully we can kind of, work together as a community and figure out what exactly we want to go down there and how exactly it lays out. But I think the big programmatic ideas and themes are there, and where exactly they end up is, up for final designs. But
Yeah, I think if you and Craig can get together and just simply concentrate on the parking lot, the lighting, the dock, and whatever information you can gather from Easy Dock or Showco. There's lots of companies out there. Jim, this particular system is like Lego blocks. They go together and then you anchor them together, and then at the end of the season, you simply lift them up and stack them. And they're made out of composite material. They won't rot. They should be, a long term.
No, but they're probably hot. You know, one other thing that you mentioned, the muck, okay? Always, you know, when you have the beach, and I don't know because I don't, you know, we've got the high river mussels and DP and different things like that. But I know that if there was, people were going to be going, if a beach kind of entrance, they're going to be trying to get in the water, just not walking out on the dock. And so one thing, at least afloat as an idea, no pun intended, okay, is if you could take some of the larger, just river gravel, okay, you know, 3 to 6 inch, if you were allowed to do this, and I have no idea whether, again, the Corps or the DNR would allow you, but if you put a bed of that in, and then you put some sand in, I experimented with that a little bit, and it really works well. And you'd only be talking about maybe a, you know, a stretch of 30 feet on each side of the dock ramp, where it's not just, because anybody that's tried to walk in the river, you'll go up to your knees, you know, and but that can be, but I don't know if it'd be permitted, but it's so creating a little base area around the entrance to that rock of a more solid, because kids are going to get in there, that might be something to consider.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be expensive.
No, yeah. When we took the boat out, we went up by the project that Mark Mondo is doing just outside of Williamstown. And my goodness gracious, he has rip-wrapped everything for a long way up and down through there using that concrete that he broke up that's about the size of your fist. And at first, it looks really great, very attractive. And the second thing is, it's very stable. You know, so I think that would help some.
But yeah, it wouldn't be like the riprap, because, you know, the problem with riprap, as opposed to the river gravel, okay, which is just round, you know, smooth stone. You know, it's like, because that's really my only issue. What Mondo's done is, Mr. Mondo's been great, but you can't walk down to the river's edge on that stuff.
Oh, no.
You know, you're going to be breaking ankles. So you know, that's the difference between, you know, because our river lays some beach, a lot of it's just like what we have at Manville, and when it's like that, it's challenging. But at 12th Street, it's not like that, and we have an opportunity to just, in essence, and like I said, if we're using natural materials, we might be allowed to. Do you guys have any idea on this? You probably haven't.
Anything's possible. This all depends how much money you want to spend. When I spoke to the Corps of Engineers, that's why we got to stay within the limits of what they propose in 48 feet. Anything beyond that, you have to get into the mussel studies, the wildlife studies. That's where you're going to get your costs.
That's what I mean. And yeah, so, and maybe I'll take an initiative to at least do a little research on what you're allowed to do. Because yeah, I know that'll be the issue. You know, if you start changing the makeup.
I was fishing that area for years, and I'd like to see it get back to it. You know, this is where a family can go down and fish if they want to. Be safe. Right now, I don't feel it's safe for people to get on that beach. It is soft. My assistant yesterday, when he was there, he walked out into the water, where it's up, he was sinking pretty quickly.
Usually your boots stay. You can't get them out. Yeah. Well, I can tell you some little personal experience. A little bit of rock, a little bit of sand can make a big difference. And yeah.
Well, there's enough flat area there on the river itself that if we could develop it like you guys are talking about, you could actually put a fishing dock in that you could walk to very easily. I don't recommend going up and down that hill. That old set of steps that was there that you had to climb down, that's steep.
Not there, but more up towards the beach with the kayak launch.
Yeah.
Once you get the ramp in there, you can branch out from there.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Chris, what else do you need? You need to talk to Craig, and you guys need to get a sketch. I mean, as soon as we can get a proposed drawing or whatever, we can submit it to the state. They'll make their comments. They'll send it back to us, and then we can go on from there. All right. I know that, Chris, some of the paperwork that you sent me that you got from, I think it was Easy Doc, for the materials and what have you, was right around $80,000.
Yeah.
You know, so we're well within our budget to this point. Craig, If you can get some estimates from, paving that area up at the top and putting in the parking spaces that you feel comfortable with, and we'll have a guesstimate of that. The lighting and what have you, we'll just have to, we'll have to get some help with that. But other than that, I mean, so, all right. Any other questions before we move on to Spencer's Landing? Okay, Chris?
Yeah, so I'm definitely open to suggestions on Spencer's Landing. Again, these are concept designs, so I kind of gathered the information that was there and kind of laid it out as well as I could based on the knowledge that I have, and tried to get the biggest programmatic elements that people have asked for. There's definitely some things that we can shift around and move. Nothing is technically permanent based on how I drew it. So I would love to see if we can kind of even get these concept designs approved, and then we can maybe look at getting some more concrete final designs moving forward and stuff. But I don't know if anyone had any other questions or comments based on what I had shared the last time. But
Well, I know in the conversation that you and I had, in the area which you designated as a botanical garden, one of the things that I had thought about was, and I don't know the term for it, it's like a meditation maze or whatever, but I've seen them in other areas where you have a designated area where people come and they simply walk the maze. Okay, and if you've not seen it, you can go on Google and just put it in there. Kathy, is there a better word for that? Do you know what I'm talking about? No? Craig? No?
Is it like a boardwalk?
It's just an area where, and it's like a meditation maze. When you start into it, you just gather your thoughts and you walk the maze, and then it's simply, instead of being a walking path that would go, a long way, look at it, or I'll get some information so that you all can see that thing. But at any rate, my thought was that if we did go with the botanical area, that meditation maze, I believe would be, helpful to people,
I'm sorry, Mary. First Presbyterian on Juliana, they have one. I think that's what you're talking about. It's nice. It's really nice. It's a beautiful church there, by the way. But they have one, and you can go and check it out.
Yes, they do.
Which one was that, Kim?
First Presbyterian on Juliana.
It's right above Big Sandy.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think those are the details that we can kind of dive into once we kind of approve this concept design. Then we can kind of pick out what areas we want to focus on. So, I think some of the priorities at Spencer's Landing would be the big walking track around the whole area, developing some of the smaller shelters and things like that are kind of easier things to finish up there. But yeah, once we kind of look at different components of it, we can really pick apart what is a botanical garden and what all do we really want to see in a botanical garden, whether that's, meditation paths or different garden areas and things like that. But
Well, a couple other comments. Okay. One, and you and I've had this discussion, the thing about all of the volleyball courts. Okay. I think a volleyball court is great, but I don't know, in your drawing, I think you put, 6 of them in there?
I think I have 2 up at Spencer's Landing, and then I had put in a few down at the 12th Street property as well. Yeah.
Okay. At Spencer's Landing, I mean, 1 or 2 would be great.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, for the amphitheater or whatever you want to call that area where we would have concerts and what have you, if there was in the design, and this is going to be expensive, so we'll have to give some thought to this, but there has to be a road somehow to get to that stage area, because people that are bringing in musical equipment or whatever else, and I don't know how to do it. Okay, you're going to have to figure a way, because they won't want to drive through the grass, and we won't want them to drive through the grass. But there has to be a pathway to get them there, because I think Rod and Jack would agree that when the Freedom Festival was there, when you bring in a band, those guys bring equipment, and and they want it to be as close as they can get it to the stage so that they can come out and they go back and do whatever. And so we need to make some accommodations for that.
Well, they can come by sea.
Come by sea, that's right. You know,
Yeah,
barge
no.
them in.
I agree. That was definitely something I had kind of overlooked when working on this, but I think we could easily, utilize that multi-use trail and kind of widen that up to the amphitheater or something. We can definitely figure something out because you're right, especially if we're going to try and bring in bigger bands or concert musicians or whatever, they're going to have all sorts of equipment that we'll have to accommodate. So that's a good point.
I had a couple things, just small type things, but the oil thing that's there right now, is it right there in that playground piece? Is that where that is currently located, and how are we accommodating the access that needs to be given to that?
Yeah, that's something that we'll have to look at a little closer. I wasn't quite sure what the extents are to the access
Isn't it-
of
is it-
that.
was
I
it
know that
200
there's a
feet
current.
or something?
I'm sorry, what do you want to
The
know?
oil,
The oil derrick's got a fence around it, so
Yeah.
you won't get in that area. You have to
Right.
stay out of that.
Right.
then
But
they're
all
not
the rest
200
of the area that's in that triangle,
Mhm.
okay, that's one of the areas that's marked as part of it's marked as a do not disturb area. So you can build on top of it, but we can't really disturb that without going through a lot of paperwork,
Wasn't there an access thing like he has to have? Was it?
An easement.
Yeah, there's some number of feet on either side or up to it. What
I think
wasn't there
they
like a line that
currently-
went up to it?
For example, and Craig's guys may know this better, but they have well tenders that come and do their thing, and occasionally they have to do certain service, upgrade tanks, or who knows how long that well will last. But because we have a couple wells, up at the warehouse, but typically the well tenders just park in the parking lot and can do everything they need to do, just basically humping their stuff in. So I don't know that there's any specific easement beyond.
since we've owned it, they've been in there one time where they had to do a major job, and they brought in it looked like a dumpster, but it was something that they captured. They had to clean the system out. And so, but it was all contained. It was not a mess. It was just, they were there. And so periodically, you're right, that's going to have to be done. Jack, you keep raising your hand. You got a comment about this one?
Well, you were talking about the tank where
Yeah.
that's something Friends of Vienna, or that's something that the tree and beautification section is already working on. 28th Street block. That'd be the Spencer property, the Spencer property.
Okay.
I had
Question, and these, I'm sorry.
yeah, I had one other thing.
Before you move on. Can you you,
Yeah, you wouldn't find the easement.
we need to know how wide that is, because if it's 30 feet, that's the difference. If it's, we want to make sure that we don't build anything that's going to get tore up. So,
I think
For
I
sure.
found it.
okay.
That's part of the, I just gotta find it.
Okay. All right.
My other small, maybe nitpicky detail is when it comes to beach type things, like say beach volleyball, how do you mitigate pests leaving presence in there or cats? I mean, it didn't take neighborhood cats 24 hours to find the sandbox that we put in. So how do you make sure that, I mean, do you have to cover it? I mean, because that's something that could really ruin it, right? I mean, you spend all this money and time on putting this nice beach volleyball thing in, then all of a sudden, I mean, you're already going to have geese, and you can't do anything about the geese. We've already talked about them. But if there's,
Yeah, I think that's just a general maintenance and upkeep thing that the Parks and Rec will have to kind of take care of. If that's something that they don't feel comfortable taking care of, then we'll have to switch from beach volleyball or sand volleyball to maybe we have hard courts or something down there.
like
instead.
rubberized something or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, that's-
because I
that's
thought that
always
would be
an
something,
issue.
even if it's like, do you leave your own sift? Do you leave a sifter down there, and before you get in, you sift it? But I don't know. But that's, I mean, really, it could be, you put all this, like, it's a great idea, and then,
Yeah, but
after a week,
what?
everybody's frustrated with
The
it.
more that you develop it, and the more that people come, the animals will stay away. You get people down there doing different activities, those geese will go away. They'll find someplace else to latch onto. But that's the outdoors. You're going to live with some of that.
That's right. So I just want to make sure that we're
But-
willing to. I'm not getting
yeah.
in barefoot. I'm just telling you right now.
No, that's fine. And I think that's part of, the discussions that we can have moving forward is hopefully the community really buys into this. I think there's been so much discussion over the past years about Spencer's Landing and what it can be and what it should be and what we want there. And, I think once we really start to develop this and people kind of buy into this idea that it's a great park, hopefully, folks want to and do their best to take care of it and really do what's worthwhile down there. So
I don't mean to interrupt you, but y'all gotta keep in mind, it's a great concept. I love the activities that go on there. Beach volleyball, the list scares me. That's what having parks for class and dance. The biggest factor you all need to consider is that property is 100% is in the floodplain. Okay, so it's on the flood. There's not an option. Flooding before, flooding twice since I've been here. Part of it's in the floodway, which is not no area. But keep in mind, if you do something down there, you got to make sure it's going to be able to survive the flood, because it will happen. Okay, so
Do you know what the base flood elevation is there?
about 8 foot.
I mean, like, do you know the elevation above sea level? Is it like, I'm guessing it's like 615, 620? Because 614 is a 100-year floodplain. It's higher. Yeah, Manville's higher than, or Spencer's Landing is higher than, like, for example, 12th Street, I think. The elevation is a little higher. But anyway, so if that's the same thing, depending on the structure, we have to pay attention to, and you're the go-to guy, some structures would require a floodplain, a FEMA permit.
And to think about how to clean up afterwards, how many hoses do you have, accesses to, things to hook up your, pressure washers and all that, make the whole maintenance part of it afterwards. If it's a pain to clean up afterwards, then it's not going to get cleaned up.
yeah,
Excuse me, just one second. If you live on the river, you're going to clean it every now and then.
Yeah, so
I mean, that's
up at
part of the deal.
on
You get the
Fishbone
view.
deck, we're at 602 to 605. And the last time that got wet was in 04 and 05, when Ivan came up, okay? But when you get to the lower elevations, every year we start the river season with a bobcat cleaning up the silt. It's great topsoil, it's great for the garden, but the river brings it and sometimes takes it away, and you don't know how to predict or when.
I mean, today when I was down there, you will pick up sticks. That driftwood is everywhere.
43 loads of sticks we pick one time.
Is that right?
3 10-ton.
Well, the other day when we took the boat ride, every one of those people's got a pile of it at the bottom of their boating area piled up. I don't know if they burn it or what they do with it, but I mean, you will pick up driftwood.
Yeah, we use a little bit for firewood. That does deliver free firewood, but
Yeah.
the majority of it you just have to handle. It's not my job.
yeah.
Jack's not sitting up here. Jack will get one. When I get to Jack, I can get to Jack. Okay? Chris is going to talk here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited to see some excitement being built up around these two properties, and I would love to kind of see us as a council kind of agree to continue to move forward on this and hopefully kind of approve these as concept plans, knowing that we might have to shift some things here or there based on floodplain levels or how much maintenance do we want to continue to put into things. But I think the hopefully the general consensus is that all of the parts are here, and so we can kind of pick and choose which parts we really want to kind of develop over the next couple of years and see things actually progress down there, which would be really awesome.
So one of the things that we're working on right now is the Land and Water Conservation Fund grants. There are several of those projects that have gone into other parks here in Vienna. And Tony Tiano, our grant writer, is working on that. And they've asked us to submit a list of projects and approximate costs. Okay? So if we are using your drawing as a starting point, then we're going to have to attach dollar values to them so that we can get into that grant cycle. And I mean, there's a lot of money out there, and the grant has to be submitted fairly soon. I believe it's December 15th, I believe is when it is. Okay? But at any rate, we're going to have to get some numbers put together. But that was the reason for the discussion this evening. Are you all comfortable enough with Chris's preliminary drawings to where we can go ahead and start to segment our areas out like picnic tables and concert, gazebos or whatever, so we can put some numbers together, so we can, have an idea what we're going to need.
I would suggest, first of all, we need the Wood County floodplain ordinance lists what things require county approval or a permit to construct. But there are many things, like you put up, impermeable shelter, whatever. If it's impervious to the water, then it's not so much a deal. So seeing what in our project might require that type of treatment. I think if you're talking about these land conservation grants, I think that we should also consider some type of what I was saying, maybe call it bank stabilization or something like that, that we can say, we want, because I can tell you, it makes a tremendous difference. It really does. If you have a little bit of beach and you put a little gravel and a little sand, you would be amazed at how much it stabilizes, that you can literally walk out without your muck boots and have a sandy surface. And it'll last, you might put down, if you get that gravel base, every 3 or 4 years, you bring in 3 or 4 dump trucks of sand if you're only talking about 60 or 70 feet, which is probably all that would be necessary. So maybe that included in, if that would be something that the grant, and again, I'll take it on myself to look at the DNR stuff as far as what the muscles would have to say about it.
Is there anything that he would need that would help Chris in the design to read what the land use, say it again, the
LWCF.
Yeah, so would there be something in that Tony could share with him, like, hey, here's what I'm writing it for, and here's what they approve, that maybe something in there
Sure.
would help him.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe
But
he
it's
could get
anything to
the
do with
language from
recreation.
that.
They funded us, the Maplewood Park basketball courts and whatever. Anything that has to do with recreation typically qualifies. Okay? It's pretty competitive. There's lots of parks in West Virginia, but at any rate, I have that. And, we'll get you that so that you can look at that information there. Craig, if on the bandstand or gazebo or whatever you want to call it, if we make that out of concrete so it's elevated 3 or 4 feet, and then you build on top of it whatever design you want, will that withstand the flood issues? Yeah, I was going to say you have to put floodgates in. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's something that I'm actually really familiar with. I'm working on a project up in Marietta, and they deal with that stuff all the time. And any of their buildings, everything in downtown Marietta is in the floodplain, and they still build stuff down there all the time. And you just have to kind of follow the FEMA regulations and stuff to make sure that water can pass through and not destroy the building, essentially. But yeah, we can definitely work with that to really make something happen.
Okay.
And I have 2 other quick comments. But so in these conceptual designs, first of all, I don't see any treatment for an actual boat ramp. I see the dock overlook, but I'm not taking that to mean, I think that we would be remiss if we didn't look ahead. And I've always said phasing it in, the kayak launch is going to tell us how much demand, but I think there's going to be an interest in having a boat ramp, and I think we've had a conversation before that it really makes sense to keep it out of Spencer's Landing because of how much room the boat trailer and trucks take. But I think we need to give that some consideration. And the second thing, it's been a bit since I looked at the Parks Master Plan. I'm sure you've looked at it in conjunction with what you're drawing here, and I want to look back at that. But I think the big thing is, how can we give people access to launch boats in Vienna and recover them?
So you're thinking the boat launch possibly from 12th Street then? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, we've got some space there, but I know that I wonder, the second half of Cheddar's parking lot is never used. Maybe for $1 a year, we can make a deal with them because they got a lot of unused parking. But yeah, giving people access, and then where would it make sense to put a ramp? You've got Pritt's ramp that got silted in. And of course that's going to be a whole issue with the Corps of Engineers to get that sited. But I think we have to consider it as we're looking ahead, because I think it's something that people have talked to me about, you know, because, I mean, it's like, I get calls, because I have a little ramp in mine, and, you know, it's like, man, I don't want to drive all the way to Belfry or Corning, can I put my boat in at your place, you know? And so people want that, huh?
$10.
Well, we put the boat in up at Williamstown the other day, and really, it's so simple. It's not funny. I mean, it's literally just a piece of concrete sticking out in the river, and you back in, and I mean, it's just a slope and what have you. I mean, we had no trouble whatsoever with that boat launch at
Yeah,
all.
but the problem in Williamstown, it's not a park, it's a ramp, you know?
Oh,
The
no,
whole
that's
thing
it.
is a parking
Yeah,
lot.
that's it.
Right,
That's
it's
all you
the
got.
parking.
Yes. But what I was saying though, Jim, is it doesn't take a whole lot to develop one of those. If you got the site, you can do that. You know. And yes, it was a nuisance to drive all the way to Williamstown just to put our boat in to come right back down. Although it was a nice day for a ride.
You mentioned that's not a park, it's a boat ramp, but since you're in 10, you'll see it as a park.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but,
That's for, that will become a park.
yeah, it will, but you're not gonna have botanical gardens and the things that Chris is envisioning, unless you can grow them in asphalt somehow, and then push a button and they go. But yeah, I think that the boat ramp is a very serious consideration for Vienna.
Is it possible to come up with a couple variations of the concepts and then say, instead of it being like, hey, here's one concept and we all want this one, or can we have like 1, 2, 3 choices? Like, okay, these are the things, we've kind of moved some things around and which one do people like the best? And then we pick that one. I know that they're not set in stone because it's a concept, but sort of like the I don't know, when the master plan was done for parks, you know, sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, so that's what they're going to do. It's like, well, no, not exactly. It's not exactly what we're going to do. It's the concept. So I guess I'm just too planning oriented. I'm like, give me the thing that we're going to do, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean,
I do more work.
you know, I am happy to kind of present this as a concept, and I've spent a fair amount of time on these designs. For a fee, I can design whatever you want.
You didn't read the fine print. When you got that chair right there, it's like, no. You're part of the team now. We get you for free. Okay, it doesn't work that way.
No, we have you on retained.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Excuse me. That's right. That's how that works.
So yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I wanted to say, you know, these are the concept designs, and I think we have all the parts and pieces here that we need. If we really want to go into that, I would suggest like really looking at, you know, hiring someone to come up with, you know, 3 concept designs and, you know, having something a little more concrete than me just kind of sketching things out, because there's going to be so many different parts and pieces to this that are going to have to be thought about. Like, how do you get electrical down here? How do you run water to all of these places? And that's sort of technical stuff that, you know, I haven't completely vetted in these concept designs. So
I had forgotten about the 28th Street Spencer part for the botanical gardens. If we have that going across the street, would we potentially need the botanical gardens at Spencer's Landing also? Maybe we don't even need them if we already have one. I don't know. I guess you could have 2. But I'd forgotten that.
People are going to want shade. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And you're talking about just a big blazing field.
Yeah, it's too hot.
People are looking for shade.
Jack, what's on your mind?
I was just offering up on volleyball when you were talking about it. About 2 weeks ago, friends from Vienna reached out to a girl that's with the American Volleyball Association. She works with pro volleyball players, which we were talking about sand volleyball players in Vienna. She encouraged us not to go that route. She said about 35,000. We were looking at it, and she was giving information, and she said she would recommend Vienna get a men's volleyball coach because men's professional volleyball. She wanted to do
Yeah, and that's the kind of input and stuff as we kind of go forward with some of these designs that I think we can really bring in some people and really talk about, for sure. So that's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put this back on the agenda for the next council meeting and we will continue to go. Okay?
Yeah.
Concentrate on the kayak launch and see what you guys can put together. And Jim, if you'll do some research on whatever issues we're gonna have to deal with the flood, and Craig, you need to do the same. But let's see if we can get a workable concept for the parking area, the ramp, and the lighting.
Yeah, we will, Chris, we'll work on it together, and, we'll just have to work on it, if we're gonna do that parking lot area, make sure it's usable for any other future events that happen out close. They're gonna pay for the concrete, they're gonna pay for parking spots, it's gonna make it usable for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's electricity already on that side near the riverbank, so we can pull it for the lights, even if you have to upgrade it some. So it's, all the basic pieces are there.
And all comes out of sewer plant, which is.
That's where we're getting our water?
And that river started.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So would you give us an update on the swimming pool, ma'am?
Sure. Let me switch my gears here. Okay, so since the last meeting, we had the engineers and those guys that had come in and look at the pool. They had found little things like, there's an old gas line in the old concession stand, figuring out, where does that go? Is it an active line? And it doesn't look like it is. Right now, the Omni is working on a fee proposal for us. In the contract, there was a place where it talked about additional geotechnical services if we need to do that. And so that would be for core borings. Okay. And they are recommending that. It is still up to us whether or not we do it or not. But there are 11 locations on the pool property that they would like to do the borings. And so it is a fee proposal for subsurface investigation. And then CEC would be the ones to analyze it. And mostly that would be just to determine, it's been sitting there for 60 years. It's been covered in concrete. What kind of, is there settling that's occurred? Is there something, they just want to be really thorough about what is under the surface. What are we getting ready to put a major investment on top of and make sure that it's solid and they know all the variables. So they are working on that fee proposal. And as soon as we have it, I'll get that to us. They are also with Martin working on the concepts for the design team. And so they're going to have kind of like what I was asking Chris, like, can I have options? They're going to work on a few options for us that then we can actually say, okay, let's conceptually, this is what we're looking at. Okay, do we like this idea? Do we like this idea? Do we like this idea? We can give our feedback and then we'll bring it to council and get kind of our official, let's go with this one kind of thing. And then we can really start moving forward on.
This is what the cost is.
Yes. So all the surveys and everything has been completed at this point. So now it's about getting the core borings if we choose to do that, which personally I think we should. But if somebody has no reservations about not doing them, then we can have that conversation. And then the concepts that they're working on for the design team. So they are hopefully going to get that to us here in the next week or so, and we'll have some choices. So yeah, Tom.
How long does it take to do the core borings?
I am not sure.
If I understand what she's saying, they're talking about doing geotechnical, basically. These guys back here.
Should be one day, shouldn't it?
Ones that might also have some.
They're doing 11. Yeah, some of them are on like from the concrete pad, and some are like they've got one that's going to be on the hillside opposite of the exit road. So there's some that they're going to be going through the concrete. Maybe they'll take the concrete off. I don't know.
Depends on how deep they go, what they encounter. I think one of the things in our business that we've been seeing is the availability of pulling rigs and getting them out there to the site. we had recently did the job down in police required 3 borings. And, we had CPL. We had them on board to do the borings for us. It just seemed like we did a regular site. I just think they're, at that point in time, they were busy. And that was just,
So that may be something that I would need
Yeah,
to
but
actually
once they
ask
get
about.
there, they'll finish the borings. They're not gonna start and then move off. Because I know we did core drillings down when we pulled the gas tanks out at 12th Street. I mean, it depends on the depth is the key. It's how far they have to
So
go
I'm thinking
down.
It's not, yeah, it doesn't take any time to do it. It's
No.
cost and.
Let's just see what it costs. Okay?
Yeah.
It's pretty fast.
So now design probably would be dependent upon the results of the core borings then, right?
Yeah.
So that's gonna have to really be done first before we get into the concept design.
Yeah. So it's kind of happening in conjunction. They're working on that fee proposal. We'll bring it back here, say, hey, do we want to do this, move forward or not with it? At the same time, they're putting together some concepts. Depending on what we find out, then we'll see which ones are feasible even. You know, some of them might be like, well, we thought it was going to be a good idea until we found out this. And so scratch that and, or, well, it can't be here now. Now it's got to be here or whatever.
How long will it be before they start to, some parameter? A week, 2 weeks,
For the core
to
borings,
start
oh,
the core boring?
I'm not sure. I mean, like he was saying, we would have to, by the time we approve it, get it back to them, and then they would have to make the arrangements to get it done with, whatever company, that would be on them to do that. So,
Just tell them to get us a number.
yeah, so that's what they're working on. We'll get that and get that in.
I mean, I think that's prudent to do the borings. I really do.
I do too.
Yeah, that's something that happens on just about any kind of project of this scale. I had a quick question on the concept designs. Are they gonna come to us with those 3 designs, or are we gonna have the pool committee vet those and then come to us?
We're going to give the initial feedback on them,
Okay.
and then we'll bring the 3 back here
Okay.
to us. So we're not just going to bring one here. So
Yeah.
we'll, if there's any tweaking that we want to do or anything that's, before we bring it straight to council.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they gathering any public input? I know that we have someone here that spoke about pools tonight. Are they gathering some public input on
Well,
their
the
designs?
public input was, for the most part, given during the master plan. You had CEC did the master plan for us. The pool was included in all of that. So public input has been given. And so what we'll do is probably once we have these concepts out and council's talking about them, we can even put them out to the public and say, what do you think? And then they can give us feedback as we're looking at it and that kind of thing. So the public has, when CEC came for the master plan, they had meetings, they did surveys, they, talked to people. So a great deal of input was given then in consideration as they were preparing their master plan for the pool. So as far as public comment goes, we believe we've satisfied that at this point for what they're doing right now. And then we can get public input on what they present to us.
Yeah. Okay.
And
If that
and
makes
we're not
sense.
going to build the Henry Sossin one. He wants an indoor one. I mean, we're going to have to work on that as a group, as he said, because that facility in Charleston is estimated to be $80 million. Okay? Which is, these guys have built 2,500 swimming pools, Henry. So we talked about that. There are so many rules and what have you when you start adding slides and all the attractions to it, that yes, they're definitely going to have that handled. I don't think that's an issue. Okay? Because they ask us questions when we went into them about the lanes and, is it an official Olympic size, or, there are lots of questions that have to be answered. So, all right, that has been discussed. And so that's, but it won't have a roof over it, and you won't be able to swim when it's snow on the ground. Okay, sorry. All right. Council comments for this evening?
I have a question. Just happened to notice this. And maybe you can tell us what's going on with this. Grand Central Avenue, the trees, the medium. It looks like about 3 feet were scraped up by the state today, so,
They're going to pave from 28th Street to Rosemont Road. Okay? Now, I have not spoken to Justin Smith, but that is the state that's doing it. They have a grade-O out there. They're pulling that edge back so that when the new concrete or new asphalt goes in, that they can actually run the equipment up through there.
okay, that's good.
All
New
right.
paving is great, especially for
All right? It's going to be brand new.
But were they taking any trees?
Not so far. Okay?
Better not.
Oh, Tom, get ready for the gas company. Trust me, that's a major project the gas company's going to do, so.
How movable are those trees? Or you just a loss? They can be moved. There's a company out of Columbus that the trees fail on the road. Actually move the trees.
We've actually done that before, Jack. But where would you put 150 or 180 trees?
Botanical garden?
Oh, yeah, put them down there on the hill. All right.
That's all.
Yes, sir, Jim.
So I'm going to ask Russ to draft a resolution. I'm not getting all of my reasoning behind it, but I'd like a resolution draft for council to consider that any time a council person is communicating with a department head, that they copy the liaison on council on that communication.
Okay. And I also have one, which should have been on the agenda this evening, but I mistakenly didn't get it put on there. Last week, we had a conversation about the tax incentive program. The ordinance that I've submitted, and Russ has drafted it, is to raise the limit from 250 to 400. Okay?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mayor.
I'll answer your question after we're done. I'm sorry.
It's to raise the limit on the tax incentive from $250,000 to $400,000. Okay? So that's where it's at. If you don't like it, we'll amend it. But we had to have something in there. I think that's a fair number. But it's whatever you all like. But it'll be on the next council agenda to raise that tax incentive. All right? So anything else?